Hello， 大家好，歡迎來到心靈活的頻道。你有想過嗎？一場意外可能會帶你重新描繪人生。
我係 Becky， 今集想同大家分享 Sandra 嘅故事，由一次騎馬意外開始，到轉化人生，最後成為 PSYCH-K 導師嘅旅程。
Thank you, Becky, for inviting me to have this beautiful conversation with you about this beautiful thing we both share and a love for, an appreciation and respect for, which is the PSYCH-K process, which we're going to talk about today. In terms of my background, I was born and raised in Vancouver, Canada. I feel so blessed to live here, so very fortunate to live in this beautiful part of the country. I grew up playing in the forests, swimming in the mountain streams, and a lot of my time was spent with horses. I started very much a love affair with horses. I've always been called to them. They have been respectfully my greatest teachers. I was a school teacher and school counselor for 22 years, and I have been a psychotherapist since 1996. I have had a private practice. A lot of the work that I did was in the field of equine guided learning, therapy, leadership, and development. I had a horse friend who told me about PSYCH-K many years ago. When she kept telling me about this process, I felt like I had lots of tools in my toolbox. To be honest, I did not feel drawn or called to learning PSYCH-K at that time in my life. So there eventually came a workshop that was being offered in Vancouver. So when I learned the PSYCH-K Basic Workshop, I brought back what I learned right away into the school system and into my private practice. And what I saw in the schools with things like learning disabilities that students had been diagnosed with, that they were struggling with around their learning, behavior, around friendships, bullying, all the things that typically students struggle with, success in their academics. These things were the blocks and the barriers, the struggles that they were having. Very often after doing just one PSYCH-K process with them, completely transformed their relationships, their ability to learn, their learning disabilities that they were diagnosed with were being transformed and melted away. And that made me really take notice. To be able to support the students very quickly, efficiently, joyfully, experientially. It's not traditional talk therapy. It's not digging into the archives or the archaeology of our past. It's very much a solution-focused process. First learned PSYCH-K in October of 2007. In May of 2008, my young horse, Chiron, was being trained to be my mountain horse so that I could ride through the mountains, he and I together. And we went up into the mountains and came out of the trail along this beautiful lake with a little creek running into the lake, and we crossed the creek. And another side story to this is my intuition said, don't cross the creek there. But the trainer on her horse in front of me crossed the creek there. And so my head, my false self voice, my beliefs said, the trainer has been riding him up here. She knows where it's safe to cross the creek. You should cross the creek there. So I encouraged Chiron to move through into the creek where the trainer had gone. And when he stepped into the creek, a stick broke. He stepped on a stick and it broke, and it came up and it poked him in the stomach. And he panicked. He just panicked. And he leapt out of the creek and he hit the trainer's horse and knocked my saddle sideways. And I was turned and caught underneath his feet. So as he was galloping down the lake, I was underneath him, getting trampled. I was knocked unconscious and my body was severed, bruised, broken, cut. Once I got home, I started to use PSYCH-K with myself for the first time, really. And the doctors couldn't believe how quickly my body healed. I had lost almost all of my hearing because my head hit the ground so hard. And the doctors told me that would be impossible to recover because those little bones in our ears, they said, it's like a chandelier in a cave in an earthquake. And they get smashed and broken and shattered. But goodness sakes, I hear almost perfectly now after doing PSYCH-K. And being able to move, my body was broken. I shouldn't have been able to stand. I shouldn't have been able to walk. But I was able to use the PSYCH-K processes to help my body heal and recover. Also, so recovering from the trauma physically was one part of it, but also the emotional and the mental and even the spiritual trauma of that accident was also profound. So being able to use the PSYCH-K processes to heal holistically, to recover holistically from that accident, that's when the light bulb went on for me, Becky, because I really am a teacher at heart. I feel that's my calling and why I am here in the world in a way. So my riding accident was in May 8th of 2008. And by July of 2008, just 2 months later, I was down in Colorado. I was accepted to come and attend the certification training to become an instructor. And I've been teaching since July of 2008. It completely took over my private practice as a therapist. So sometimes people might think, oh gosh, that riding accident, I really do, I've changed my perception about it because had it not happened that way, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be talking with you today. I don't think I would have had the requirement to start to use what I had learned with myself. If I think of myself as a painter and I have a palette of colors that I've been painting my life with up until this point, what PSYCH-K has given me is a whole palette of new colors that I didn't ever maybe see in my life before, but also hues and textures and even new paintbrushes with which to paint my life forward. You could think about it as a musical metaphor as well. I play the piano, the idea of if I'm only allowed to play this chord of notes, that's it. And if that's all I know, it's, oh, I can make beautiful music. Look at all the sounds and songs that I can create. But now look at, if I have 88 keys instead of 8 keys, how much more rich and more vast the playlist of my life can just expand exponentially.
有没有一个信念在限制你呢？如果改变能既轻松又快速，你会迎來什麼新的人生呢？關於導師的10月線上工作坊詳情，請見下方連結。
如果你都想體驗1對1嘅PSYCH-K諮詢，歡迎 DM 聯絡我。多謝你收睇，下一集再見。